Here's my really quick little disclaimer. The video you're about to see is just me by myself in a science lab, so it's really not going to be exactly the same presentation as I would do for the kids. The presentation I would do for the kids is really a lot more organic. They have a lot more interaction with the children. You know, things like just real quick little questions like, how many of you has this happened to? Or how many of you have ever had a cold and you can't taste? Or things like you need a volunteer or a couple volunteers, or questions like, why do you think that is? Does anybody have any idea why that is? As Mrs. Magnuson will attest, I do have a good rapport with children of younger age groups, so that will be where my presentation changes quite a bit when you see it live. So what you're about to see is actually just kind of an idea of the material and my presentation style. I really hope you enjoy it. Thank you. My name is Cari Scholtens. I am a scientist. By day, I am a high school teacher, and by other days, I'm the world's coolest nerd. Science has always been one of my great passions. Science is the way we explain the world around us. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing that we can use to kind of put all this into perspective. And we need something like that because this is a lot to take in. And we need something to kind of frame it, to say, okay, this is why this happens. This is why this happens. This is why this happens. Scientists are always asking why. Now, when you think of science, you might think of this.
We're losing a deflector shield. Go strap yourselves in. I'm going to make a jump to light speed.
Or this. Or even this.
It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
But see, none of those things are science. Those things are what we call pseudo-science. Now, the prefix pseudo means fake. And that's exactly what these sciences are. They are fake science. On some of those clips, you'll even see that they are what we call science fiction. Fiction. Not real, okay? These are fake sciences. Now they're sort of real, which is why we can put the science stamp on them, but at the same time, they're not exactly what science is all about. Real science involves things that we can observe, test, and prove. Scientists have to look at the world around them and explain what they see. It's simple, but we've discovered fascinating things using science. For instance, a cat's whiskers are wider than the widest part of its body. Why do you think that is? Well, the reason for that is so when a cat is, stalking around trying to hunt a mouse, or say it's a big cat, maybe it's like a cougar. If it's trying to hunt a squirrel or a rabbit, it's so it doesn't get stuck in places. Okay? It's so if it's going into like a rocky crevice, it's not going to get stuck because if its whiskers are touching, it goes, oh, that's too narrow for me. I can't get in there, and if I do, I know I won't be able to get out. That's why cats' whiskers are longer than the widest part of its body. Now, the hair on our arms stands up when we're cold. Why is that? Well, that's actually a residual effect from when we were a little bit more animal. You see, think about like a wolf. A wolf has this wonderful thick pelt of fur. Well, when it is particularly cold, its hairs stand up. And what that does is it creates a little pocket of air in between the ends of its fur and its skin. And that pocket of air helps keep them warm. Now, we don't have enough hair to make that happen anymore, but it still happens because we can't fight our ancestry. We can't fight our ancestry. That will still happen even if we're practically bald. Bees can see different wavelengths of light that are invisible to us. Why is that? Well, here's a fascinating thing. When we see a normal flower like this, a bee would see this. And what does that remind you of? It's a target, all right? A bee needs that in order to know where to land. And that way, it can pollinate different flowers. Most fish, and frogs too, are lightly colored on their bellies and darkly colored on their backs. Why is that? Well, that is so they're camouflaged. When things are in a lake underneath them, they're looking up at the sky, they can't see them because their lightly colored belly is blending in with the lightly colored sky. Their dark backs are so when we are looking down into the lake at them, we can't see them either because their dark and usually green-brown looking backs blend in with the dark green-brown looking bottom of the lake. So it's really hard for anybody to see a fish. And that's why they're colored that way. Scientists are always, always, always asking why. Never, ever stop asking why. Science is all around us. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our senses and the science behind them. Science is an everyday endeavor, and you'll be able now to know the science behind when you touch something, or when you see something, or when you hear something. We're going to learn today a little bit about what makes you a science experiment.